Welcome, welcome back to another episode of the Lightdrop podcast, where it's just two friends talking creativity and beyond. And today, yet again, we are three friends because we got a returning guest on the show with us. Lizzie's back.
Oh shit.
Lizzie, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for
Nice.
asking. I'm really pumped to be back talking with y'all. Because I feel like, we keep kind of like checking in on each other and like we move through life and then we're like, how's it been? Are you doing the thing we talked about? Probably not.
Yeah, yeah. Lizzie hit me up maybe a couple months ago or so, month and a half ago or so. Um, like you just said, uh, we talk about all this stuff on our podcast, and a lot of it is reflective kind of theory almost.
Mhm.
And so as we move through life and we try and put it into practice, um, it's good to check in, have somebody to check in with, and just see how you've been doing. So that's definitely what we're looking forward to doing with you on this episode, Lizzie. But before we get into that, just what you been up to lately? What's
Yeah. I'm
what's
not
good?
sure if the last time we talked, but I think since then I started my first booking after 7 months of taking a self funded sabbatical. And
Mhm.
yeah, I was like really terrified of that.
Mm.
Um, but I've been doing that. I'm booked for like 3 months, and I started moving into this space of like actually mentoring and like creating. I want to start leaning into like creating more like educational, helpful videos. So like next on my docket is like I'm finally gonna make a video about like rates and like when to raise and when to lower on this kind of stuff, because I feel like it's stuff people are always talking about, and like some things I feel like there's guidelines too, and then the rest is a conversation. So yeah, but I'm working and I have hobbies. That's a first. That's a first for me.
A good thing.
Life balance? You mean?
What are
Yeah.
hobbies?
Well,
Have
this
you
is
heard of those, Jeff? You heard of a hobby?
I don't know. I used to play basketball once. Now I
one
just
time.
sit on my computer.
You have
um,
soft computer bodies.
yes, I'm just like slowly forming. But no, that sounds exciting. It sounds like you were approaching this time with like some thought from some reflection from the time you took
Yeah.
off.
Well, uh, do you want me to remember? I think I posted on Lightwork like my
Yeah, yeah.
affirmations, and my
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
why.
yeah.
Is it
So
Yeah.
the one that blew
I
up
have
or the
Yeah, yeah.
the
I
post?
have yes, yes, yes,
Man,
yes. I read that post that that you put on Lightwork of those daily work affirmations, and it was right around the time I also started working again.
yes.
I had gone 9 months with no work,
Mhm.
and in that time had a bunch of, I've talked about it a lot on this podcast, just a lot of time to reflect
mhm,
and think about what I enjoy about the industry, what I don't, how I want to be when I come back, and habits that I have that weren't so healthy, things that I just wanted to kind of change about how I am, um, in working professionally and having that balance, like we talked about. And so those work affirmations that you put up, before you show them, I just want to say I saw them and I kind of did my own interpretation of them as,
Oh,
uh, it was almost like when I started working again. This was in April. All of April, I was booked, and for me, it ended up being a like nightly journaling session, almost like I was documenting the day and
mhm.
doing almost like a film review session in my head.
hmm.
I start like I did this morning. Wish I had. more time in the morning because I started work feeling a little rushed, right? Okay, how can I improve that? And then midway through the day, I was feeling kind of antsy again, the way that I had habitually felt before. I've thought about this. How can I fix that? What are the things that I've been kind of thinking about to to better that?
Mhm.
And that's helped a ton just from having that nightly kind of check-in where you just kind of
Hmm.
touch base with yourself. And it feels way more manageable because
Yeah.
we've talked about these things, we've ruminated over all of these things in our head. So when it comes to putting them into practice, you realize that it's really just habits,
Mhm.
that we've done for years and years and years. So it's about building new ones because you can't just get rid of a habit. It's about building new ones to replace those bad ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are
Those
show me
affirmations.
that show me the word
Oh,
affirmation is like.
I mean, I loved what this post like brought up in conversations, and I think that's when I hit you up, and I was like, we need to talk about this because
Yeah.
a lot of people started saying like, yeah, this is great. However, this is how I'm responding. So my daily affirmations. By the way, I also have another piece of paper. They're like both on other sides of my
Oh,
monitors. One is like why I'm showing up, and it's like what the money will bring me basically, and it's like a dog, more sabbaticals, like move to California, like these kinds of things. But so my daily work affirmations is because just like you is like you take a long time away from work, and even though you're ready to step back into it or something, like there's fears that you didn't navigate it the best way in the past, and you don't want to repeat those things and those habits. So when I was working with a career coach, um, one thing that came up for me was like, I'm really afraid. I'm afraid that I'm going to repeat my behavior, and that's a real fear. So I wrote these affirmations to like kind of help me navigate that. So one is, I will work within the hours I
yes.
am paid for. I am not responsible for the success of this project or company. I mean, like, we're working on it and
Mm.
we're going to do our best, but like, if it fails or doesn't fail, it's not because of me or because like I didn't work overtime.
Mm.
Um, I do not need to move mountains. I'm allowed to not know things and not have every solution. I'm enough. I was brought on purpose. I'm an adult. I will take care of myself and have my own back, and so does my partner. And then I also wrote, my truth is enough. So the idea of thinking that like this person hurt me in the past, I was really overworked in this way. I think a lot of people can be like, oh, it wasn't too bad, or you had to work harder, blah blah blah. Like telling myself that like, no, I felt something, and like I don't have to explain it to anyone. Like I felt it. Get off my pee pee. And then at the end of the day at 4:45 p.m. because my day ends at 5. I shift my hours because I'm on the West Coast. I wrote, I purposely like sit down on my computer and I ask myself like, how did today go? Um, what is in store for tomorrow? And then I wrote to myself, step away, because I think I mean, even with these affirmations, like you'll be thinking about work throughout the night and like throughout your whole day. And I think by kind of figuring out like, this is what happened, this is what I'm going to get to, it's just easier to be like, goodbye now,
Mm.
boundaries. So yeah, I posted that. And I feel like a lot of what I heard was like, I've been working for X amount of years and I still struggle with this. Or I've been working 15 years, I've been working 10 years, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like really bad at setting boundaries. And someone said, like, I keep slipping. I keep fucking up.
Mhm.
Is it okay that I'm
Yeah,
cursing?
yeah.
Um,
Shit.
yeah,
It's
they
yeah.
like kept slipping. And I feel like at one point I had a conversation with my partner where I was like, I actually I was embarrassed to say this to him, and I'm actually like kind of embarrassed to say this on the podcast, but like one of my buddies was brought on to do like full foliage in these scenes, like full jungles basically. And they were coming in, they were gonna like solve all those problems. And I had this moment where I was like, I'm not I wanna be doing I wanna solve all the problems. I wanna be awesome. Like I wanna be and I had this moment where I was like upset by that. And and then I was like, I don't I also don't give a shit to be like really
Wait a
good
minute.
at making plants. Like why? Where is that coming from? I recognize it was like from this place of always feeling like I needed to like prove myself, but I guess like taking it back to what other people in the community were saying of like, oh, I'm slipping. Like, ooh, I had this like reaction that I didn't like. Um, I realized like that's not us slipping, y'all. That's us like realizing, oh, here's this habit I have, and then I'm having a different reaction, and I don't like that habit. Like, I want to change it. And it was like this really nice moment of being like, that's success. Like, so we have a habit, we want to change it, but then even our reaction to our habit is habitual, and
Mm,
where we like beat ourselves up instead of being like, oh, I'm seeing myself doing the thing. Like now I can change it. So I really wanted to talk to y'all about this and like put this out to the community because I want to like kind of like congratulate everyone and pat yourself on the back like when you're having that moment of like, I'm slipping, like, no, you're not slipping. Like, just the fact that you recognize that means like you're doing it. Um,
You caught
and,
it.
huh?
You caught it. You caught
Yeah,
yourself. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's just like so incredible. And yeah, I don't know if you want to like speak more specifically to that idea of like trying to be different now that we're coming back to it. And I know, Jeff, like you are going to allow yourself
hmm.
some time off.
Yeah,
And like you recognize in yourself too that like you're almost struggling to like take that time. So you're even making a conscious decision now to like take a beat. Like, I hear this is good for me. I should do this, you know?
absolutely. Yeah, and it's I think it's through these conversations as well that we've all had. I don't know how. I think we talked about this a little bit before, but I don't know how people um, who kind of live in this vacuum are able to keep creating for like a long time because it's like if no one tells you that it's okay to take time off, you'll just think that oh, like I'll just work myself into the ground. But I'm
Yeah.
glad to have y'all. I'm glad to have my family who tell me that hey, take some time off, and they're okay with that. Um, yeah, but yeah, I'm still working up towards it, but
Yeah.
I'm glad to be surrounded with groups of people that encourage time off, PTO, wellness,
Taking care of ourselves.
taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, what's also nuts is like, so my first week back at work, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this so differently. And I think I recognized right away that um, I I wasn't. Like I said
Mm,
all these affirmations. I was like, I'm gonna do this differently. Like let's go. And I felt pretty early on that I was like, well, this is a good sign for me at least. Like if I feel so emotionally exhausted at the end of the day that like I just want to like watch TV and eat shit, that is a sign that like something's wrong. Especially
mhm.
like if I don't have time for hobbies. So I started seeing that I would end the day and be like, ugh, oh my gosh, like I have to do this for 3 months, like fuck. Um, but I was talking to my partner and was like reflecting on the things we had been talking about, and I was like, this is not how it's supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be this exhausted. Like, what am I doing? And so I had a really nice moment where I was with my team and I was like, hey, like asking me to do this and this and this and reacting to that person and reacting to that person and being a producer and being a lead and being a head artist. And like, it's too much. I can't juggle all of this if you want me to be good at my job. And they were very appreciative of it. I mean, it doesn't hurt that I was talking to like a woman of color. I think it made me feel like really comfortable to say these things. Um, but afterwards, like they started leaving me alone to like do my work,
Huh.
and I did better and I moved faster. And it's like so nuts that like I think in the past I wanted so badly to just solve all of the problems and be like such a gem, be such a powerhouse. Um, but the like ironic thing is that like if I actually put less on my plate and didn't try to juggle so much, I run train and I get so much done. And I'm
Mhm.
a better artist and I'm like nicer to be around. I'm like smiling more often. Um, and it was just like it was so eye opening of like, oh shit. And then so you do that thing like I didn't expect it to be perfect. That I would come back to work and I would be like, I learned all these lessons. Now I'm going to apply them. Cool. Like it was very much like I came back, I stumbled, I got back up, I stumbled again. Like another thing that happened was I so here and there I will like miss an hour of work because I'm still seeing a therapist. You know, I'm putting in the work. And so I
Yeah.
have to make up these hours like here and there. I also had to take a half day because jet lag from Asia to the West Coast is insane. So this like 1 week that I came back, I was like, I'm gonna make up all the hours after my regular work day. So I had a week there where I was working 12-hour days,
Oh,
and I like did it to myself. Um, but like it was really interesting because I do very much have a different relationship with work now, where I'm like, this is to support my life. Like I'm not working overtime. Like I mean, like this again. This is my decision to scoot my hours around. Um, but I still found that after working that many hours, like day to day to day to day, and like Jeffrey, you just experienced it, like months of this.
yeah.
Um, I noticed like just in a week, I was like, oh, um, I'm not sleeping well. I'm thinking about work while I'm going to sleep. I like can't work out. I can't cook. I'm like so stressed. I don't want to do like my hobbies, and my threshold, my like patience for dealing with stuff is just like this. And I was like, I was like, whoa, I could really feel like I feel so different right now. But it was also really familiar because I was like, yo, this has been me for the past 10 years. Like, this is normal. So to have this like perspective of like, oh, this is what it's like to like work like a normal person and have balance. And oh, here, let's go back to how you used to be, where you overworked yourself. I was like, oh, that's bad. I was like, that is really bad. So I made a decision that it's like, if I ever have to make up hours, for me, I think it's different for everyone. For me, I've learned like it is, I think, healthier for me to offset those hours to the weekend than to cram in 12 hours in a day. It's just not, it's not cool. Um,
Yeah. I was gonna say because I think I was talking about it before the podcast. I also dealt with the same thing few for the first I think last 6 months have been like that. And um when you mentioned that you told your coworkers that hey, I'm exhausted, and they believed you and they supported you through it, the same thing happened with me at our company. And it was so refreshing to be around people who recognize that we're all exhausted.
Yeah.
and it kind of, I was gonna say, just allowed me to to take a breath, just because I thought that I was the only
Yeah.
one who wasn't, you know, I thought I was the only one who was tired and I wasn't going along with everyone else. But then when everyone was like, "We're
Keep up.
all tired," I was like, "Hell yeah!" So like,
Yeah.
no, that's
It's
just,
like we're like, oh, we must be weak. We must
yeah,
suffer.
that's what I
Oh,
thought.
it's my problem.
No,
Yeah.
this is not
I
normal.
had I had I had something similar when I started working. My last booking, it was very much, again, it was right around the time you made that post. So I saw
Mm,
your, the affirmations that you just wrote really like hit me at the perfect time.
mm,
I was like, I'm gonna be, it was really more so just about, like you said, being mindful, because in the past, um, at the end of the day, you'd be cranky, tired,
yeah.
and you would just be like,
Give me ice
it's just
cream.
what it is. It's just what it is. Like, this
Mhm.
is like, how am I supposed to fix this? I'm
That's work.
working, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, that's just what it is. But I saw it again as being a habit. I was really looking at, like, what am I, is there anything that I'm doing um that's going against all of the things that I know aren't helping me be able to be the energetic, lively, person that I know I am
Mhm.
at the end of the day. And the first thing I started to do, it was like a little experiment where I just tried stripping away stuff, because I was like, okay, I've got, I'm working obviously on the computer for work, but then I also have like my computer here on the side, and I have my phone here also, because I feel like I've got
Mm,
to check and handle all these other things that I'm not doing. I was like, okay, let me just put everything away and set a timer on my phone. That's what I started doing. I started
oh, like
setting a
the
timer.
Pomodoro method?
Mm.
What was it?
Are you referring to the Pomodoro method where it's like 25 minutes of
5 minutes.
like focus?
It
Yeah.
I didn't,
Sorry.
I may have done that without realizing it. But yeah, it sounds pretty much like what I did.
Hmm.
I took up my phone. I was like, okay, I'm gonna put my phone other side of the room, and I'm gonna set a timer for 45 minutes. And when that timer goes off, I'm gonna get up and I'm going to step away. And most importantly, I'm gonna step away and actually step away, because I think my biggest problem or bad habit over the years when working, and I think this started in college, just from the nature of um, working in the computer lab all day, all day, all day, all day, all day. No, our computer lab at school didn't have any windows,
So bad.
so
Yep.
you didn't know, you couldn't see what time it was.
Yep.
Um, I just had that really bad habit of literally being at my desk for 5 hours without getting up, 6 hours.
Ooh.
And then you just think about it, like, for 40 hours a week, like, for months on end, like, no wonder I'm sore and I'm just not sleeping well and I'm antsy and cranky. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, it was like, it was that. I was like, let me break this habit and actually be conscious during the day that, okay, I'm working on this now. Okay, my alarm went off. I'm not working on this now. Let me get up and take a walk, step away, think about something else. And I found that it it wasn't even so much that the physical act of sitting there, it was more so the habits that I built up of allowing my brain to just kind of be all over the place, like scatterbrained while working. Like, I would still get things done, but I would end the day feeling like I had more to do, or I hadn't done enough, and it was
Mhm.
always just like these arms pulling me back to the desk. It felt like it was just so hard to step away and feel like I'm done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so that was kind of what I saw. Like you said, it was just a glimpse. Like I had a couple days where I was really good, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my god!" I'm like,
Like,
7 o'clock came around. I was like, "I feel great." Like I don't feel like I've been sitting down for 6 hours straight because I haven't been. I got everything done. I got up, I walked, I exercised, and um, I slept well, kind of thing, and then slip back into it, right? Like,
Mhm.
you do well for a few days and then a day comes where it's the same thing and the day ends and you're cranky again and I have like a headache coming on
Yeah.
and then I'm just like not only conscious of okay, I'm slipping back, but also feeling a little bit like fighting that disappointment in myself of like
Hmm.
am I gonna get this right? Like you
Mhm.
Yeah.
know, like
Is
why
this
am
gonna
I
be
it shouldn't be this
forever?
hard. Yeah. Exactly. So that was kind of my experience in is same same as you, but then on top of that it was also really being mindful of literally 7 8 years of this habit of just allowing my brain to go into this whirlwind frenzy that is
Mhm.
work that
Wow.
stays at work even when I
Yeah.
walk away from the desk, even when I, get up and go eat lunch during the workday. It's
Yeah.
like I'm always still attached to the desk. And
So hard.
yeah, so hard. So
No, that's.
it's
I was
it's
gonna
hard,
add.
y'all.
Now that we're talking about slipping, I also had a moment of realization um, with because
You
I
didn't
was
slip. You succeeded.
a few months ago. I was like, I think Jamil, you knew about it. I was working out like consistently, got a Planet Fitness
Mhm.
membership. I was playing basketball every other day, and then something
Yeah.
happened like that went wrong with work, and then I just stopped everything. I stopped getting
Oh, and it's like
haircuts,
it's
just
an
like
avalanche.
like
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
something I've been trying to do a lot more to notice when I'm like, oh, like I'm slipping, and maybe to catch myself, I just need to pay attention to like, did I shave recently, like my face, like did I shave my face recently, and uh how exhausted do I feel at night, and that's it, and that's so
Yeah.
far it's been helping.
Oh my gosh. So this is another thing that I was talking to my mentee about. It was like these two parts. One is like a list. I've made myself a list of things of like this is what it looks like when you're slipping, which for me it means like I'm going into a bad headspace. Um, so it's so interesting to hear Jeffrey that you're like, have I shaved?
I need to
Like
write
that's
them
a
down.
very
Yeah,
yeah.
'cause they're
But
so
then like
clear, right? Yeah.
but so for me it's like I start lashing out at people who are like who I love. Like I start seeing them as enemies. Or I start like isolating myself in my own home. Um, they're like just a list of things because I feel like when you're in it, sometimes you don't recognize it. So for me, like honestly, I write stuff down and I put it in my face because um, otherwise, if I just rely on my habits, like it's not going to happen. So even my therapist was like, "You're literally physically trying to break your habits by like if you can't do it, like this other version of you is helping you." So yeah, I have this like page that's like this is when you're like doing bad, and then I have a list, and it's like this thing we've been working on together, or it's called this like self care kit, um,
Hmm.
and it's the things that you know bring you back, uh, and so for me, it's like I need to hang out with friends at least once a week. I need to be physically active. What I'm finding now is that like I need to play pickleball at least once a week. This week I played it 3 times. I'm in such a good mood. I'm like so happy. But there's like certain things and like having time for my habits. Like if I don't do if I don't work towards the thing I want to work on, like I get crabby. So yeah, and it's just so fascinating to like now be at a time I guess in my life and like at this age, like we're starting to understand like exactly ourselves, like what works for me. Obviously, like shaving my face is not something I have to pay attention to,
Mhm.
you know? So, like, what works for me doesn't necessarily work for you, but everyone has their things, and we're like discovering them as we go. And so, it's almost like, I don't know, for me, it's like very, like, it's a puzzle. It's like, okay, or like math, it's like A plus B equals C. If I don't have these things, I'm going to fall apart. Um, so, like, one of these I've kind of I'm starting to think to myself like if I have a job where I don't feel like I have the energy to work on my own stuff, it's not a good job. It's
Mhm.
like it's not gonna work, kind of thing. Um, so yeah, having like these two anchors, I feel like has been really helpful to like actually do something about it. And like if I am crabby and it's like, well, I haven't been able to like play basketball, I haven't been able to play pickleball, like what can you do about it? Because sometimes there are cases where it's like there's no time for anything.
Yeah,
Um, but like, are there other options? I guess like, can you outsource some of that?
I was
Yeah.
gonna say.
I've what's been like really eye-opening for me lately too is to also equate that like that lack of energy and that um like that crabbiness like you mentioned being cranky
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. I feel like we default to thinking it's just because I don't have enough sleep or I didn't get enough rest or I didn't relax,
Mhm.
as much as I wanted to this weekend because I was running around doing errands and like you think that that's all you got to do is just get a little bit more rest. But I was thinking the other day I also read something that kind of pointed out how and surely we've all had this experience where you've been tired, like run down feeling and you just aren't motivated to do anything, even really get out of bed. Like you're just kind of in that place. And then all of a sudden, someone calls you that you hadn't talked to in a while, or someone, comes up and says, hey, I got tickets to go to blah, 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 or whatever. And all of a sudden, it's like energy. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh.
we've all experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I really thought about that, I was, became really conscious that it's not just about rest and I say rest like literally sleeping and the amount of hours that you're sleeping, and of course that's important, but to put that energy back into you is like you said pickleball. What are these things
Yeah.
that like excite me, because it's that excitement and everything is what's giving you that energy to get up. And like I remember times where I would start working on music. Like I'll be working on a music song or something on the side and while I'm working also. And I would pop up in the morning at like 5 in the morning so that I could work on it like
Yeah.
some more because I'm excited to work on that.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then, the day goes and you have energy to work on it at the end of the day, but I'm working on it and I'm excited about it. So I just
You're
remember these
working.
experiences. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I remember these experiences in the past and was reminding myself that that's what it is.
Mhm.
It's not just sleep and getting enough
Yeah.
rest, and you got to put that juice back
Mhm.
in those ways
Dude.
like you said that works for you. And um I tried, maybe this was maybe like a couple weeks into my booking, I tried to wake up earlier. I told myself, okay, knowing that, right? Knowing that it's not all about just sleep, like it's about good sleep, but also doing stuff that excites you. So I
Mhm.
was thinking, oh, I'm getting 8 hours, but I'm waking up just exhausted, tired. I did an experiment. I was like, okay, I'm gonna set an alarm. I'm gonna get up at like 5:30
Mhm.
and I'm gonna do something I enjoy. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna go for a walk and just be away from thinking about work. right?
Yeah.
And then the first couple of days, I definitely was tired, right? But
5:30.
I could
So tired.
it was different. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
different because it was like it was, it was in the same way that you would think, like, my muscles are sore because I just
Mm,
started going back to the gym, you know?
Exactly.
Like, after a few days doing that, it wasn't so hard, and it became much easier, and it became obvious that, okay, it's not just about getting 8 hours. It's about getting, like, good sleep, but also making sure that at some point in the day, I'm putting that juice back in the ways that excite me. I'm working on this, I'm working on that. And that was where I noticed the biggest difference for sure. Giving myself
Mhm.
some time in the morning to walk around and just be clear headed and do some writing, beforehand kind of thing. So
yeah.
yeah,
I was gonna
I
say
definitely agree.
for creatives, it's kind of wild to be working somewhere where you don't have enough time at the end of the day to do something creative, because it's like it's kind of an illusion because you're gonna get tired eventually. So,
Mhm.
Lizzie, to your point that you said earlier about not working a job that doesn't allow you to have time to make your own things, that's almost like
So
that's the perfect place to be. I think as a creative, and something I've never actually
yeah,
heard someone say before. So I'm aspiring to that now because I'm like, wow, it makes
yeah.
too
Like,
much sense.
what is that a possibility?
Yeah,
Well, so fun. It's so hilarious that you say juice, Jamil. But my it's just funny. My students actually at SVA, I I've been talking about this shit for years, and I was talking to them about it back in like 2018, I think, and they were the ones that were like, "You're filling your watering can," and I was like, "What?" And they were like, "You have a
mm,
watering can, and that's your energy, and you pour it out, but eventually you run out, so you have to fill it back up." And I was like, "Oh, I love that." But yeah, it's like what
A
fills
creative well.
your watering can or your well? Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Which also it kind of so this all reminds me, or like it kind of brings it back to this idea of like you, Jamil, were really focused on like how you can have more focus and like be in the moment. And I think that's actually really important. So I was recently talking to Christine about this. That like for me at least, I have found when I used to work, I feel like before 2020, I would, especially if I was like texturing something or I had like a ton of UVing to do, I would be like, okay,
Hmm.
let's get a show up, you know,
Yeah.
and then like I'll work. Um, but right now I'm in this period where like I rarely listen to music while I'm working. If I do, sometimes it's just instrumental. But I find myself pausing the music a lot. So what I'm saying is that like I will hyper focus while I'm at work. Like I really try to not have any distractions. And then when I'm working on my own stuff, the same thing. Uh, so it's like because my mind isn't split in a bunch of places and I'm working in complete silence, or sometimes this is a Damien move. He listens to whale sounds. Whale sounds, you guys. We made fun of him for so
I'm gonna
long, but
try
then
that.
I tried it and I was like,
100%. I'm trying that.
I'm trying
okay,
that too.
it's like it's eerie and it sounds like funky, but it's almost like I'm in this like weird zone. Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah, like I just felt like in the past, I don't think I realized like how much my brain was being pulled in different directions.
Bouncing
Yeah,
around. It's like, yeah.
yeah, and like especially if you're like a director or a lead or a producer or something where you're overseeing a bunch of people, like you already need to be in so many places at once. So then to be doing that and then have these kind of distractions and your phone's out and like something else is happening over here, it would totally make sense that at the end of the day you're like still so frazzled. Um, so it's just been it's been an interesting experiment. Jamil and your experiments. I think this is an experiment for me that I'm like I'm trying to not do anything but work while I'm working, and then it is easier for me to be like, I'm done at the end of the day because I know I'm like fully focused at work and I did everything I could. There are moments sometimes where I'm like, like maybe I could listen to a thing. And I've kind of been proud of myself that I'm like, no, that means your mind is wandering. Like, come back to me.
Especially when you tried it, especially when you make a point to try and you realize you can't, and you're like, "Oh my god." Like,
Where has my
it's
brain
like
gone? Yeah, you're like, I'm
exactly. You're just
constantly
like,
distracted.
yeah, I have my phone next to me, and I would just, like, my arm would move up, and I'll just be like, "Jesus, it's been
Mm.
20
Yeah,
seconds
yeah,
since the last time."
yeah,
I was like, "I
but
need to put this over here."
yo,
Like,
some people like Discord, Slack,
Uh,
yeah.
Instagram, GChat, and I'm like,
Mhm,
I have to shut them all down. And I feel rude
mhm.
because people will start a conversation, and I'm like, I said this to my friend the other day, and I've never said something like this. I was like, hey, I really want to talk to you, but like, I'm about to like jump into a zone for my own work right now. So like, I'll totally hit you up later.
Yeah, I don't think
No,
I've ever said that to anybody,
focus.
actually. Now that
Yeah.
I think about it, I don't think I've ever had the guts
I
to
don't
tell
talk now.
someone
Yeah. Yeah.
"Not now, I'm about to go into a zone." Because there's definitely been times where, like, you know, another way I started looking at the phone and all of our technology, but especially the phone, is that it's there for our convenience, not for other people's convenience to get in touch with us. It's there for our convenience to be gotten in touch with. So,
Do you
like,
feel that
um
now though?
yeah, and I'm thinking, "Okay, there's been plenty of times where, like, I'll get a call and I'm just kind of like, "Okay, I just talk to him for 5 minutes, 10 minutes." But then, I'll hang up and then I'm like, "Okay, I was just about to get into this zone, but now I'm kinda thinking about what they just said, and
Mm-hmm.
it's practice. It's literally practice, and it's fun to kind of point that out to yourself, to say like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna try it. Like, I'm gonna do this. I'm going to focus on nothing but this, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
see, and I'm gonna catch myself every time I find myself like mid Maya session, and I'm thinking about the bill that I didn't pay." And then,
Yeah.
like, in the past, I'll do that all the time. I'll think about it, and then I'll just, let me go do it real quick.
mm,
Just write
Right?
it
And
down.
and then, yeah, exactly, and that's been helping. I'll write these, you know
Come back.
what I've been doing? And I would this is another thing I would recommend, trying. I've
Experiment.
been doing this thing where I'll write a to-do list, and I'll write everything that I need to do on the
oh,
to-do list,
brain
like,
dump.
everything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
especially because, um, like, I haven't talked about it much on the podcast, but all the stuff that, I've been doing with light work and, like,
Mm-hmm.
programming the application and everything like that, like, all these, like, I'll have this huge to-do list, and I'll just write it all out, everything, every little tiny thing, bill that needs to be paid, something that needs to be called, whatever. And then I'll put it into 2 sections, and I'll say, on one side, no more than 3 things, 3, maybe 4 things will go on things I have to do. Either things
Yeah.
I have to do or things I want to do will go on that side, and then I'll put everything else in just, like, things I'm gonna let the universe take care of for
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
Yeah.
sections. And
Because you
just and
can't
just and
tackle
just
this
yeah,
list
but
where
just
you look at
writing
it
it
and be
out,
like, what's the point?
and knowing that I put it somewhere and I acknowledge it and I left
Like
it,
out of your
it
brain.
makes it, yeah,
Mm.
it makes it easier to be like, "Okay, it'll get taken care of. It's cool for now,"
Exactly.
kinda thing.
Yeah. But that's also helpful because it's like that does happen when you're working on stuff. Like something pops into your head and you're like, "Well, I can't forget about this."
Mhm.
So a lot of people will like have a notepad by their bed or at their desk, and if that thought does arise, like you can be like, "You have to pay that bill," but you don't put it there and then like let it get out of your brain. I use Notion. I'm a huge Notion dweeb, so that at all times, anywhere am, I can always access it, and I just add stuff, and you just get it out, so you can like be in that moment. Yeah.
I love that. I was gonna say I also I think that's the one thing that I've started doing that has absolutely changed the last few years of my life because I used to be very
Oh,
unorganized. I think Lizzie, you and Jamil, you are probably I've known Jamil for a while, and I think Jamil is very organized, and I'm sure you're very organized as well. But I that was the one thing that I stopped doing was like doing more like listening to like words I mean sorry rap songs with like a lot of words rapping quickly
yeah.
um listening
While
to
working,
yeah just
sounds
podcasts like
that sounds like a
long
chat.
conversations things that were super deep uh
Yeah.
that's the one thing that's helped me grow as an artist is just reducing. There was this quote I recently heard. I think it was like wisdom comes with reduction. And then I
Mm,
forgot what the opposite side was, but it was definitely as you grow older, you do less for a reason. So I
Hmm.
think leaning into it whenever you can is definitely a plus because I'm sure our brains love it for the most part. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Well, it's also tricky, and this is something I'm trying to navigate as well. Like, I know a lot of people, I don't personally have ADHD, but I know a lot of people who do, and they do really prefer to like have something in the background, like some kind of noise while they're working. And so I can't speak to like I can't necessarily be like, turn it off. You need to just focus. Like, it would be much better for you. Like, maybe it's not. Maybe you do find that, like, you need a certain combination of things. Um, but I would also be like, but try it. But try it maybe because like, it's, the phone was supposed to be convenient for us. But if you haven't listened to Digital Minimalism, oh, here's another
Mm,
book for you. Uh, I think that like having our phones, having our emails, having all these different communication things, like I think we also have it in our heads that like we're expected to respond to these things right away. And it keeps us from like focusing. And I think Jeffrey, at one point you like brought up that like once we get taken out of something, it takes us like 20 minutes to get back in there. So like if you're constantly being distracted like that, like I think we all just assume like not me. I can focus. I can blah blah blah, and I just want to be like, bitch, we are such emotional biased people. Like, shut up. Like,
mhm.
no, you
mhm.
aren't. Try it, and then see. But don't just be like, no, I know this. I for
The
sure.
thing about it too is like I think to circle back to like you said with your students and your mentee and everything is um these are habits, you know? Like we like these are I'm looking back
Comfortable.
at how I'm looking at how I am now when I go to work. I'm very pleased that like I'm getting better and I'm able to acknowledge them and I'm improving and I'm it's much easier for me to focus because I'm practicing and everything now. But when I look back to how I got here, it was habits. It was these habits that I built up honestly of just not being mindful at all, just thinking, oh, like you said, oh, it's fine. You know, I'm looking around. This is what everyone else is doing. They all seem to be fine. You know, so it's important to think about it that way as how can I build good habits? How can I develop good habits as I'm starting to work, as I'm getting into working in this field, into working in creative, professional industries, is to be mindful of this, to really not just kind of cast it aside like, I'm young, I'll be fine. Like think about just be mindful of these things and of like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm able to focus. I want to make sure that I'm able to switch my brain off at the end of the day because it isn't normal that I'm still thinking about work, when work is over with, and it's
Mhm.
so new when you're a junior and you're just getting started that you're just kind of like, oh, this must be what it is. But yeah, there's definitely ways to be, I don't know, cleaner is the way about it, more polished, in the way that
Yeah.
you are Um,
almost like simplified, and I feel like closer to who you are. I feel like I personally feel like we all move through our lives like fighting who we are. Like
mm,
we're constantly like, I should be this way, I want to be this way, I blah blah blah. But like at the end of the day, there are just certain things that work better for us. And like it's like how do we move towards that version of us that works the best, the happiest, the most balanced, the most fulfilled. Um, and I think for some people, it is like a way more simplified, deliberate uh, way, which is, I feel like so much of what these conversations are. It's like being very deliberate about what we let into our lives and what we remove because we want we want to be happy, you know?
mhm.
We want to like feel good about all this stuff, which I feel like kind of so another thing I've been like thinking a lot lately and maybe is like the reason that we like force ourselves into these holes and like force ourselves to work more than we probably should and challenge ourselves in this way is like I think there is just this like really nuts sense of urgency that we all have like especially like before 30, you know, with things that are like top blah 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 under 30 and like this person achieved this at 17 years old. Like we have this feeling that like we need to be as awesome as we are like young. And I feel like that's so damaging. That sucks because it's like we're like set up for failure. But also like we all talk about the people in high school who like peaked and like oh we don't want to be like them like I want to blah 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 but then we're still like kind of following along with that narrative of like
Mhm.
I don't want to peak at 17 but like I should definitely peak before I'm 40 like that's the same shit is that not
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same so like and going back to that conversation of like letting yourself die and you like master things like you master like I don't know 8 different things in your lifetime like you may not peak or you may not become like the most awesome version of yourself until you're like I don't know 60, 70. But like if someone were to tell you like you are going to be your most awesomeness at that age I don't know how you react to it but for me I'm like really like that's amazing that sounds dope that means like I'm just gonna keep fucking growing like I'm gonna be there um and that kind of like makes me feel like I'm it feels like there's way less pressure now to be like you
A
have to do it
release.
right now you have to find the thing that you're good at you have to find your calling you have to be like most dope artist right now instead of that it's like I'm not trying to peak yesterday I'm trying to peak in the future so like everything's gonna come in time and there's only so many hours in the day so like just slow and steady. Like, let's find the shit that works, and I'll just
I
go
did.
smooth at it.
I last year, and I haven't talked about this on the podcast, and this is like
New
also
stuff.
a subtle,
I know.
shameless, shameless self promotion because
Here we go.
of our light work platform, right?
Yeah,
Um, but last year is when I built it. I built the whole
yeah.
application on my own, and I first taught myself how to program, right? So I probably spent like 50 hours, plus learning it in the
Mhm.
first place. And then working on it probably like 40 hours a week, right? This is, of course, I wasn't working, right? Because of the strikes and everything, but and I still don't know what it was. But then at the time, I just felt like there was this clock, I don't know if it felt
Oh,
like either someone was gonna beat me to it
mhm.
or I was gonna, I don't know, lose interest or whatever. Like I still don't even know why I felt like there was such a clock ticking, but that added to my like anxiety level so much, to where it was just like I would wake up, and what made it so tricky too was that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working on the app, seeing it come together, seeing the idea come together. And I would wake up and I would work on it in the morning. I'd stay on my computer. Like I said, bad habits, but I would stay on my computer. Literally 8 hours would fly by,
Mhm.
and it'd be like, geez, I haven't eaten, I haven't gotten up. But
Well,
again, to your point, I I felt like, literally felt
yeah.
like, I gotta go. I gotta finish it. I gotta finish it. I gotta finish. And it took me a while to
Well, so yeah, I
get
want to
out
be
of
like,
that.
how do you feel now?
Mm.
It took me. I feel much better now, and I
Are
think
you
it's
like,
from these.
I need to, or is it
No,
like, oh, this is
and I think,
fun? Mhm.
yeah, and you know why? It's because I feel like I feel like I realized that what I'm creating, I'm doing it in such a way that only I can do, right? Like, it's not like there's something else out there that's gonna take it away from me, you know? Like, I'm happy and satisfied and pleased with what I've built already, and that's mine. It's
Mhm.
no clock, there's no deadline. And I think what's also helped is, again, doing the podcast and stuff like this. I know, just from myself being an artist, from all my peers, that you can't bullshit artists, right? It's like we're talking about all this stuff. I also want to, I want to kind of be it, and
Mhm.
and kind of lead through example, and kind of literally kind of let all the things that we're talking about come out and through me in like a testing kind of way, like experiments and stuff like that. And I found that it's been a huge release of that mental clock, like you were talking about. Like, oh, I gotta have it done by. It's got to be done by. I don't even know what date it was in my head, but it was just something. Oh, I gotta finish
Mhm.
it by soon.
Yeah.
you know. But I've come to realize that there's no date, there's no race, there's no any of that. It's just enjoy enjoy what you're doing. Try and be better the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And like you said,
And
60 will come along, and you'll be,
yeah. And you're like, that
you
was a
know,
dope ride. But it's so
yeah.
interesting that like it's so interesting and beautiful, I think, that like you you took that time that opened up to you and you did something with it. Like that was born out of this like space. And now it feels like the conversations that you're having and like the way it's starting to kind of like build is organic to what you feel connected to. And as you said, like it's it can only be what you both will create. It's not going, like, if anyone else created it, it would branch somewhere else. And so like, and that happens so naturally, and now that's coming from a place of like, this is really cool, this is really fun, as opposed to like, I need to do this, I need to do this. And so it's so exciting. I feel like that's another like beautiful thing that I'm seeing happen, is that like all of my friends have this thing that they're building. Maybe it's also the age, but they all have this thing that they're building, and like we're all seeing like, oh, I have to do this, like I want to do something that I feel connected to, and I have to do this in a way that like I won't hate it and it won't become like work. And so we're all like very cautiously like
Mm,
but like it's just, it's so interesting. It's so, it feels right. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it feels like way more organic. There's like, because I taught at SVA like 6 years ago, the way I I'm a very organized person, and like the way I taught my class is I essentially have this big master script that like I would give a presentation every single class. And a lot of these talks is like how the holding and booking system works, how rates work, like how to be a good artist, and like how to, once your foot is in the door, like how to like guarantee you'll keep coming back. These kinds of things that like I've had written out, I've had like prepared, and I beat myself up about it so much of like, I should have made this 6 years ago. Like, why didn't I make the video then? Why am I doing it now? And it's just like, I wasn't I wasn't there back then. You know, like maybe you didn't have the space to create this back then. I didn't have the mental capacity to like even feel confident in myself to like speak on these kinds of things. But now it's like, I don't know. I feel what I'm hearing from you and like what I feel in myself is like there's this level of like self trust that's starting to be built, and it like I'm like, yo, this feels good. Like I
Hmm.
like it a lot. This feels much better than that other stuff of
Yeah.
like working so hard from a place of like deep self-loathing, like deep
Yeah.
idiot. I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough. Yeah, it's just like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it
Warms your
wears
soul.
differently.
Just,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Jamil and I definitely, when we started making decisions, I think Jamil, right from the beginning, we told ourselves that this was gonna feel different. Like this, the podcast is gonna feel different. Every time we're making decisions about additions to features on the app, it felt like we were giving ourselves enough space, and I really think that that's a big reason of why I've enjoyed being a part of this with Jamil. It's just been like this nice coasting of, sometimes we'll definitely run into problems, but because because we've started, you know, the journey in such an organic way, it doesn't feel like it hurts every single time something happens. You know, it doesn't feel like we have this deep hatred for anything of the process. So
Yeah. Because it
uh,
doesn't like have to be this
yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It
Totally.
feels it feels much more uh like when I speak to people about it, I feel I feel genuine, you know, because
Mm,
because it's
Hmm.
coming from that place. It's
I
um
care.
there's no ulterior motives aside from just treating it like it is the art that we're talking about, whether it be at work or your side project or any, like it's all one and the same. So
Mhm.
um I've learned, you know, through this, through all these, you know, really the last year or so of um, you know, flexing these creative muscles in that way, um, you know, what's what it is about creating that A hits you and makes you feel satisfied, but also B, um, what resonates and how it can spread to other people, because it's like
Mm.
I we talk about these topics again all the time, but I don't feel like an imposter. I don't have imposter syndrome
Yeah.
talking to people about this, because I'm like, no, I'm doing it myself. I'm feeling it. I'm making stuff, you know, and sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I do you know, better days than others. I go back to work, um, you know, working professionally and still slip sometimes in my old habits, but it's
But it's
it's
okay.
all yeah, it's all okay. It's all good.
Oh yeah.
It's all groovy.
I was gonna ask Lizzie. So you mentioned the rate video, but I
Yeah.
want to. Could you talk a little bit more about that? Because I'm curious to find out. Is it just like general how to talk
Oh yeah.
about things?
Totally.
Yeah, because yeah, shameless plug. Please talk about it. I want to hear
Okay.
more.
So first of all, I know it's past the hour, and I have cleared my schedule in case you do want to go further. Because beyond this point, I had two other things that came up, but it doesn't have to be all in this episode. Okay, sorry, you can cut that out. I'm so sorry.
For
All right,
sure.
the rate
We're
video.
good.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't want to give too much away, but so let's see. Actually, I'm gonna just pull up my my script because I started writing it. and this is all on Notion, of course, my YouTube video list. The rates are covering like, because another thing I did was I reached out to my specific community on Instagram. I do this a lot where I say like, hey, I'm thinking of doing a video on this. Like, what do you struggle with? Like, what has always been confusing? So I took a poll and I try to like fit those things in. But it's like, it's the basic guidelines. And I will always be, I'm speaking from my own experience of like commercial work as an animation artist in New York. So I start there, but I think what's really important is that like these numbers are very, very general. And then there's concepts outside of that that like if you're in a different country, if you have different experience levels, like these can still apply to you. So I do go through like what is a junior artist? Like what do they charge? How much experience do they have? What are the expectations as a junior artist? And then like what are the cons and pros, the pros and cons of being here, because holy shit, do I feel like juniors do not want to be junior artists, and they don't take advantage of being in this spot. So they have like this like so much overthinking and anxiety that like totally destroys them, when actually like there are some things that you could work to your advantage being a junior artist. And then a mid-level artist, like what the experience is, what the pay is, pros and cons again, and then a senior. And then after that, um, how your rate can fluctuate or vary depending on your location, your experience level, your skill set range, and your general badassery, because like your speed and your talent also applies to your rate. Uh, and then the importance of like, you can have these guidelines, you can like dictate things based on yourself, but um, the importance of like asking other people for help, and like how you do that, how you have those conversations. Because it's scary to go up to someone and be like, "How much do you make?" Like, don't do that. Don't do that. But also, uh, I also want to hit really specific things of like what I have found, what I've gathered from the community of like when you raise your rate, because that is always a question, and when you potentially lower your rate. Um, and then like I am always someone, I feel like, that will go into the feels and get real vulnerable, and I will always come from my experience that like is deeply based in like a trauma informed experience. And I really just wanted to take the time to like acknowledge how much that rate can be so deeply tied to your self-worth, and like how dangerous that can be, and like lessons that I've had to learn. I think honestly, like the most important thing from this video, besides like physically how to navigate these things, I feel like is, can I reinforce to people that like your worth as a person or as an artist doesn't come from if you make more money. Like if you make more money doesn't mean you're a better artist, you're a better professional, you're a better this. Like you will see through this video that there are so many different factors that dictate how much money you choose to ask for.
Mhm.
And like you could totally be working on a project at a reduced rate because you really want to work on that project. But based on numbers, you would be like, well, I make worse less than this person, so I guess I suck. And it's just like that's not the case at all. At
Mhm.
all. So I really wanted to make this as like an easily digestible thing that maybe someone can just start with and like use as a base level. There is a lot of, I try to throw in like, what about this situation? What about that? What about my classmate that I graduated with? They're making more than me. What's up with that? It's something that a lot of people bring up. Uh, and I did recognize too that as I started to ask these questions, a lot of people started asking about. So another video I want to make is kind of like just general personal finances when it comes to like taxes and how to navigate your money as an artist, because that can be really confusing, and it's kind of this like self perpetuating narrative that it's like we're artists and we're not good with money. It's like That's not true. We're
Mhm.
art like because we're artists, we have our own business. So like we can
Yeah.
be good with our money. We are not dummies. Like it's there are steps you can take to like feel like you've got this shit together. And I really love I really love breaking down these like really dry topics and being like, you're
Oh, that's
fine,
great.
you're not
Yeah.
crazy. Like everyone struggles with this, and like maybe this will make you feel better, kind of thing.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that's those all those points are like that sounds like a great
Incredible.
course because I feel like I have a really good grasp on all of that stuff that I got just through my path
mhm,
journey, juniors that have pulled my coattail along, or not juniors, seniors who
mhm.
have pulled my coattail along the way when I was a younger artist that have gotten me to understand that stuff too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So like hearing you break it down that way, I'm like, yeah, that's a good chapter. That's a good chapter. Like those are all great points. And I think what's even greater about having that conversation is, and I don't know, I don't want to sound naive or ignorant, but
you're
um,
ignorant.
I feel like the industry is shifting to a way that's not necessarily something that know how to verbalize yet. And I know that you probably feel the same way. Most people listening to this will feel the same way just with the nature of the industry. Um, but I feel like there's this shift that's moving away from artists being so dependent on the studio and like um this
Mm,
greater kind of machine and being this small cog in this greater picture, right? I feel like much more um or many more artists, especially junior students now, um less than we were. Like I feel like when we were in school was like, oh, I want to work for Pixar, I want to work for Disney, I want to work for Weta, like these specific
mhm.
places. I feel like now it's more so, the freelance is like the freelance mindset is a little bit more prevalent. And then I think on top of that, you add the fact that everything is remote now, where it wasn't when we were coming out of school, and then combine that with just the way the industry is shifting around with like the content that's being made, whether it be sh- short form content or episodics or whatever it is. I think that we're going to see a lot more, like you said, almost like self businesses, like artists being their own kind of businesses, like you said, with these rates that they're giving and they're kind of dictating on their own terms, you
Yeah,
know?
especially with
So
this AI. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like I feel like it may not be the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but I think that that's where the industry is going, where we're going to see a lot more artists coming from this industry with the skill sets that we have that are going to just be making their own cool shit that's going to kind of be their own. They're going to be their own brands, their own businesses, right? With these skill sets that are kind of they're pitching essentially to the studios or whatever it is, whatever it looks like. um I don't know, but
yeah,
I think that that's I think that that rate conversation, like you said, and having that clarity on what it really is, your choice of what you want to charge, right, versus what your quote unquote worth, right? That big
yeah.
distinction. It's important to understand that early, because then otherwise you'll frame your energy in the wrong places to chase after the wrong
Oh
things
yeah,
and to think that you need to hit the wrong benchmarks and
yeah.
so on and so forth, and it could really send your trajectory off in a whole non-creative way, right?
You
Um,
you move towards, and oh my gosh, I feel so passionate about like when we start talking about I want to work for this company, I want to work for that company, blah blah blah. I feel like there's so much where our identity gets tied so deeply to our work, but we are not even artists. We are like contract workers. And I'm all for like, we do not owe companies anything. besides the service that we agreed to provide them during these work hours. So like, and as AI is going to start kind of getting rid of these, like, I think more junior positions, like we need to, they're not going to be able to get rid of these creatives who are super specialized and talented. Like we are going to, we're going to be needed, but we need to be able to like have our own backs and understand how to navigate this space in a way that doesn't like totally destroy us. Especially, I feel like for people who honestly have some mental disabilities. Like, I feel like some of the reasons I've really struggled with this is because of depression and anxiety. Like it makes it so much harder, and so it's really important that we like get a hold of this early. Otherwise, like, I can tell you it is not a smooth ride. And like on light work, like Caitlin brought up a really amazing point that like she doesn't have the same resources that other people had when they became juniors. Like they're doing this all online. They don't get to like ask to go out to lunch with someone. They don't get to look over someone's shoulder. So it's like so much harder for them. It's so much harder. And like one of the most important parts about figuring out your rate is talking to other people. So if you suddenly have this like fucking screen in front of you where it becomes harder to do that stuff, like there's just so much working against you, that like I hope this can help be one of those tools that like remote work took away. But this is just, it's really, it can be really hard and complicated, and it's structured in that way because we live in a capitalist society. And actually, another video I wanted to make was the holding and booking system. But before you talk about holds and bookings, you have to talk about like how like a commercial is made, that there is like a company, an agency, a production studio. Like the holding and booking system is created to cover a company's ass so that if they get the job awarded, they have artists there. So that's why they have like dibs on people. So like I think when you're a junior artist, we are so, it is so easy to take advantage of us as artists in animation because we feel like we're so lucky to be here. It is just ripe for us to be taken advantage of. But when you look at the way this is like structured and recognizing that it's structured for a business, and I very much am familiar with this because I ran a business, and like it is to benefit the companies, then you need to know as an artist, like to have your own back, not in a way that's like, fuck this company, fuck everyone, like, blah, 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 blah. But you need to know like where like you just, it's strategic and it is smart for your piece and for your money to like take care of these things. We
Yeah.
all want to do like the right thing and not be someone who's difficult to work with. But I think in the long term, if you're taken advantage of, if you're overworked, if you're blah blah blah, like you will be a piece of shit to work with. Like it comes back, you know.
Yeah. That's um I I feel like the nature of the way we um apply for work is kind of something to be mindful of too,
Hmm.
because um it's different for freelance, right? Because I've never, I honestly don't think I've ever sent a demo reel to to a coordinator or something where they've asked it like specifically. If I have, it's been, it's, it's not like I apply, quote unquote, to a freelance job. It's more so getting in touch and building those connections with coordinators and stuff so that you get reached out to when work becomes available. Whereas for a specific company, Pixar, a visual effects house, or what have you, there's that familiar process that you kind of gear yourself towards out of college, which is they're asking for my demo reel. um, how can I get it to stand out, and how can I figure that out? And so you're framing your headspace towards, okay, how can I impress them almost, right, with my with this thing that they're asking for from me to judge whether or not they think I'm good enough to have the privilege of coming to work for this company that's gonna make Marvel movies and all the Disney movies
I
that I
would be
wanted,
so
you know,
lucky.
that
Yeah.
when I work exactly.
Mhm.
And that's just the headspace,
Mhm.
and that's like very, very blunt way of putting it. But because I don't want to make it seem like the recruiters out there or anything have these ill intentions with
Mhm.
how they're, reaching out to students and stuff like that, because that's not the case. But to put it bluntly, that's kind of how the relationship starts from as a junior artist. You're like, okay, they're letting me work for them. Like, oh, I managed to impress them. That's what I was trying to do, and now I can come work for them, kind of thing. Like, so from the get go, you feel like a smaller piece. You don't feel like they
Capital
need
A
you just as
artist.
much as you need. Yeah, just as much as
Yeah.
you need them, they need
Mhm.
you, right? So, um, it's tough, and then when you translate that to freelancing, it's way more geared towards, okay, um, that self promotion in different ways and kind of building connections and uh, networking, and it's you building being your own business, right? Because you're dealing with, again, taxes, and you might have to get insurance and all that stuff that comes with being a freelancer.
Mhm.
Um, it's just a different mindset, but by and large, what's most important is that self worth, like you said, and understanding, not in a oh, it's gonna ruin making art for me way, but in a just a very, like, literal, this is how it is way of how these businesses are ran and
Yeah.
how the bidding
So
process
how you
works. And
take care of yourself.
yeah, so that
Yeah.
you understand, okay, this is what they're asking me for. This is how they see me. It's not a bad thing. It's just what
Yeah.
it is. And so let me make sure that I'm,
Yeah. I'm
you
not
know,
saying these things to be like fuck companies. I'm saying
yeah.
this is what's happening. So make sure to take care of yourself.
Hmm.
And that like really reminds me. So I just had this session like 2 days ago with my mentee. So it's just like really, really fresh in my head. And so much when you're like trying to get work as a junior or a freelancer where you're constantly like putting out your work and you're like managing your demo reel and you're staying up to date, you're doing stuff in a way that makes you hireable. So even like when we were talking, she was like, well, I want to do this thing, but like, how do I make it in CG? How do I do it in this way that like applies back to work always? And like I was always thinking that every time like I had any kind of excitement to make something, it was like, well, how do I do it in a way that like shows
Mm,
off my skills where I can make more money? It always comes back to that. And I think I think like when I was in Super Dope and I was like really going through that like rough period, when for me in the depths of depression to me feels like, I mean, as dementors are explained, it's like all hope is gone and you kind of have this like what's the point kind of attitude. And so I have found so much healing in like if there is something that like sparks any kind of like, ooh, what is that? Because the opposite is like having no hope, I say like fucking go for it. Like chase that thing down. If it's not related to like what you do professionally, it doesn't matter. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter. Just let it go. Like I feel like these things will come back. They will always add to it. And so we were going back and forth where she was like, well, I'm interested in this and I'm interested in that. But I really feel like I should be learning Houdini. I really feel like, beep, 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 beep. And when I was on my sabbatical, I was like, I don't want to go near a computer. Like, hell no. Yeah, when I took time off, I didn't want to go near a computer, and I took like singing lessons. I started like paddleboarding and all this stuff. And there was a deep fear. I think I told you all this that I was like, what if I
mm,
don't want to be an artist? But I came back to it, and I started. video editing and recording and like write. I started writing, and for a long time I fought that because I was like, well, I'm not a writer. Like, why am I writing? Um, and I came back to it, and I came back to an art that was on the computer. And I really feel that if I hadn't taken a break where I stepped away from a computer, I wouldn't have come back to a hobby that was on the
Mm.
computer. I would have just been like, absolutely not. Um, and so, yeah, I feel like that's all to say that, like, we're trying to like navigate this and make a living as artists, but the reason we got into this is because we wanted to be artists. And there's a really fine line where you lose feeling like an artist. I keep saying capital A artist, where it's like, I'm an artist. Like my dad is a kitchen and bath designer, and we were recently talking about this when we went to Taiwan, that like he stopped being an artist very early on, and he kind of lived the rest of his life being a contract worker. And I feel like the thing I want to take forward for my family is I want to be an artist. Um, and I wasn't doing that on the path that I was on. And I feel like even, creating a platform and creating a community, like that is an art. That is a thing that you're working towards. And it may, I think, again, back to the urgency thing. It's like you want a solution, you want a thing. And I feel like if we just let ourselves like go, I don't know. I'm trying this where I'm like throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall. Uh, but I just hear it so much in other people where they say like, but I should do this, or like I should be working on my reel, and I should blah blah blah. And I think coming from a place of like having to take a sabbatical because my mental health was so bad, um, and like having to do the therapy work that I've been doing, is that like I have so much trust now that like move towards the things that like bring you life. And like I think that's how we move. That's how I feel that we move towards like making that little a into a capital A. And
Mm.
if that's what you want, um, and I think ultimately that will make you a better uh, worker as well, because you're just like
Yes.
happier and you're fulfilled and your watering can is juicy.
I got my
The
so
juice.
my dad, he listens to this podcast, so he'll love this. You
Oh.
mentioned your dad. He's
Mm-hmm.
um one thing that I always am mindful of and kind of laugh at a little bit at myself from time to time when I feel like I've deviated from being an artist, even though I'm in this artistic
Yeah.
career, making all these cool pictures and stuff. Sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
still feel like a technician, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, he is a musician through and through,
Ah.
and I saw in him, and he was very much pressured. I guess what was it would have been like the '70s, early '70s when he went to college to not, to not go to art school because that's not the safe route, right? And so he
Mm-hmm.
ended up being a lawyer, right?
Oh
Big,
wow.
big difference.
Yeah.
And he will be the first to tell you over the years is like he was when it came time for me to decide what I wanted to do for school, he was very much like, from his experience was like, no, like find something that you want to do, kind of like do that, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'll, you know, support you in that way because
Mm-hmm.
he had went so far being a lawyer, right? Like a
Yeah.
lawyer
Yeah.
wishing that he was making music and being a musician and playing, and playing the horn and everything. And years and years and years passed, and it made him ill, right? I mean, not literally physically, but like he he spent so much time not doing art,
Yeah.
right? And so when I think of like our position, it's like we're right there. We're right next to it, literally in these artistic fields doing making pretty pictures and working on cool movies and able to texture stuff and design things, and yet we still feel like we've branched away and not allowed ourselves to be artists. So it's like, okay, well, what actually is it then? Because it's not just the career choice, you know. It's not like, okay, I decided to go into this creative career, like I'm an artist. Like, what does it actually mean to be a capital A artist? It's not just, oh, I work as an artist in a creative field. It's more than that. It's being able to check in with yourself and be mindful that, oh, I've deviated, right? Like, I want to make this. I want to sculpt. I want to do this. I want to do that. But oh, how am I gonna put that on my demo reel? So you end up doing something that you don't, and then you end up doing something that you don't, end up doing something that you don't want to do, and the same thing has happened where you might as well be you might as well be in a courtroom, you know. So so that's a big thing to consider and to think about when you get started in a creative career is you want to be an artist, then that's what being an artist is this constant checking in, uprooting of your comfort level, pushing yourself, challenging yourself, and not being afraid to that thing that's exciting you, go towards that, right? The
Yeah.
thing that's not exciting you, don't go towards that. It's not just this one decision that you made in college that
Mhm.
puts you on that path. You got to keep course correcting,
I I feel like there's a certain amount of like guilt, I think, that I carry when I look at like where my family came from and like the struggles they had to give me what I have now. Just even being like more financially stable, and having more financial freedom in that way. And at for I still do. I still feel like a lot of like um, sort of like I'm uncomfortable with it. I feel like guilty. Um, but lately, this is kind of dark. But my partner was he had to go on a business trip for work, and he started a conversation with his Uber driver, who started talking to him about what his wife does, and she works to help get rid of human trafficking.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and like talking about like what that does to her mentally, and like the struggles that she deals with, and the struggles that these like children deal with. And it just got me thinking that like, first of all, what we're doing is not a big deal, number one. But number two is that like, if we're going to live this privileged life where we get to be artists and to be like miserable and to
Yeah.
be crabby in this way is like, it's such a disservice to the people that have made this possible for us. And so I feel like it's kind of like our responsibility to our families and to our communities and the people that like have made this possible for us, that like we should do our best not to make as much money as we can, but to be as positive as an impact on other people as we can be, because like we are not saving lives. We're making pretty pictures. But yeah, that's all to say. It's like, I think instead of dealing with this like guilt of like, ah shit, I'm an artist and like I'm, I'm maybe doing better than my parents, is like, then show them that respect of like taking care of yourself, and like um, moving towards things that you love, because it pays out in how you show up for the people in your life. Um, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, what was the quote that Jeff said this episode earlier? You said that wisdom is reduction, or from reduction comes wisdom, or something like that. I kind of think of
You muted, Joe.
how
Yeah, wisdom is gained through reduction.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
um I think as we've gone through this industry and experienced um the the I can't think of the word. I'm having a brain fart. The yin and yang aspect of being so close to the fun and the creativity and the, you know, pretty pictures like you said that we're making every day, but also still feeling so so far gone from that like inner artist in us making the things that we enjoy, and all of that. We're seeing how, okay, it's through kind of like stripping things back that we get to the core of it, right? And it's not complicated, it's what excites me,
Hmm.
and moving towards that, right? It's
Yeah.
sitting at your desk feeling feeling cranky and crabby and angry, and not being not being okay with it, not just saying, okay, this is what it is, but
Yeah. I
doing
guess
something
that's what
about
it
it
is.
to, yeah,
It's
checking in with yourself.
information. Like
Mhm.
all of this is information. Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. Hell yeah.
So we're probably coming up on time, but should we have a debatable
Oh,
for the listeners
Ah!
that we need to debate on. I don't know if Jamil, you want to be the MC of
This
this,
is silly.
I usually am.
or um yeah.
This is
So
silly because
maybe
there's one clear answer.
okay. So
No, 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 okay.
I'm
Go.
gonna bring it back.
Okay,
Okay,
go ahead, Jeff, go ahead.
so the debatable is this: which is the preferred or better transfer delivery method for syrup? Is it pancakes or waffles? So
To get
which
as
one?
much syrup in your mouth, should you
Yeah,
use a waffle or a pancake?
exactly. Which one
Mhm.
is it?
I have my thoughts, but I'll wait.
Um.
I'll let
Okay,
you
so
go
I'm gonna.
first.
Oh yeah, Lizzie, go ahead. No, I feel like you know.
Well, because you already told me your thought there, but my initial reaction was like, one is flat and the other one is made of little cups. Like, it also depends on the waffle, okay? You can have a really like shallow waffle with little divots, but there are some waffles that are like an inch of a cup. You're gonna tell me that a pancake's gonna soak up that much? And then you can have a pancake that has waffles are made of pancake batter. So whatever you use for a pancake is gonna be what you use for a waffle. So there's no argument here.
I don't know. I think a pancake is more spongier.
I
Have
was
you
gonna say
ever
that.
had when you leave a waffle on the plate and you put syrup on the waffle and you leave it there, right? Say you
Yeah.
went and you like got distracted by the cereal or the orange juice or whatever, and the waffle is sitting there in the plate of syrup. It's not soaking it up at all. Like, you're gonna
Um,
come back and it's just gonna be a
Jamil.
pool of all this syrup, like, on the outside of the plate, not on your fork. Whereas with a pancake, right, the pancake is literally gonna take on all it's like a sponge, just gonna take on all the syrup. It's
Lie.
gonna get super soggy and saturated with syrup. So I think that
Well, then
pancakes
riddle me this, Jamil. Riddle me this. What if you use the same batter to make waffles that you would for pancakes, which is usually done? Then it would have the same absorption abilities.
would it though? Cause I
Wouldn't
cause
it?
cause in
I
my
mean, I think so.
experience with the waffles
I'm
is
sorry, I
they
didn't
get
mean to.
crispy. Waffles get crispier than pancakes.
It depends. It
Yeah,
And
but
so with
depends
and
how
so
you
over
the
make it.
time,
crispier the pancake or the crispier the waffle, sorry, the less absorption potential ratio syrup.
Listen, one of my friends makes pancakes with olive oil so that they get crispy.
mm,
So,
Oh,
oh
wait
yeah,
a minute.
and it's
I
amazing.
didn't. Huh.
So it's not so
Crispy
simple,
pancakes?
okay? Yeah,
Is that
Yeah.
what it is though? Because you put like when you make a waffle, right? You spray it You spray it with like olive. Is that what
Mhm.
makes it crispy? I thought it was just the
It's that
nature
I
of the
feel like
waffle.
it will get crispier with an oil over butter, um, because I think it can
So
get to a higher temperature. But if you make
so
pancakes with olive oil, you get some crispy ass pancakes, or you could just use like a butter spray instead of an oil based spray to make a waffle, and then you could have a real not absorbent pancake and a very absorbent waffle. What I am arguing though is that if you use all of the benefits of one on a waffle of a very absorbent thingy and not a crispy fat layer, if you keep those things constant from the waffle to the pancake, the waffle will win. And not only will it absorb it, then you can pour some more on there, and then you gotta absorb it, cup, and you put it in your mouth, and you go, "Holy shit! I have so much. Oh, I have diabetes because I just drank so much syrup." How can you argue this?
and
what do you think,
and
Jeff? What
I switched up, Bill. So first it was waffles. I mean, pancakes for me, but then now it's waffles because there are Belgian waffles, which are like soft. So it's like there's different types of waffles,
There's
and
different
maybe okay, I must be bugging.
different
I've
types of
never had
waffles, different
these
types of.
soft waffles you're talking about. Where?
what
I've never
you can
had a
buy them from
soft
stores.
waffle.
Just go
Go
to
on
a
Amazon
hotel
right now.
buffet.
They
I
exist.
must be going to the wrong places.
And okay, so another thing is it's a waffle, so it's still just made of like flour. It's gonna soak it up eventually. It might be
Don't
longer,
freak
but
out.
that's not a
Don't
strong
freak out.
argument. So I feel like
You
Lizzie
make
won this.
you make compelling points. You make compelling
It
points.
helps to scream it. Woo!
I did this same question last year um at a family event. There was like 8 of us, 6, 7, 8 of us, and it got heated. It was like yelling and screaming and arguing, and
I
I
don't
stuck
understand
with the
why, because there's
pancakes.
clearly one answer.
I stuck with the pancakes. I stuck with my guns because I just can't get the mental image out of my head of a pancake on one fork, a waffle on another fork. Like which one is soggier and just more saturated with the syrup? It's like and again, I'll be fair, I haven't had these soft pancake or
Right.
these soft waffles that you're talking about. So I let me know
Get
where to
yourself
find them.
a soft waffle.
So far.
And then you'll be like, wow.
Do
That's
they
a
have those
waffle
at
spirit.
Waffle House? Or the Waffle House waffles soft?
No, they definitely make those crispy, but
Yeah, see,
I'm sure you can buy it,
Yeah, find yourself a
somewhere.
shitty waffle, and then you'll see.
I have I have one question for you, Lizzie, because I was curious about this is away from the waffles pancakes. Since you've been working as a lead lately, I've had this soft thought for a while that
Soft like a
like
waffle.
soft like soft like a pancake for a while that there's
Yeah.
like that there's these inefficiencies in how much time we spend working on whatever the project is, in CG that seem to
Mm,
be so recurring, um,
mm,
that also seem from my perspective to be so simple to resolve. And I feel like if you were to meet halfway from the standpoint of like our typical work hours 10 to 7, um, I worked at places that's been 9 to 7, and
ew.
s- yeah, and so I feel like I don't count lunch as like a reduction in that hour. Like 9 to 7, that's a 10-hour day in my book.
Yeah.
And so that's a 50-hour week. And I feel like um a lot of the gripe with like overtime that may happen is compounded because the base week is already longer than you would imagine it typically, a
Yeah.
9 to 5 would be,
Yep.
right? And so I feel like I've felt like this for a while, but I haven't been in the CG lead position in a minute. So I haven't been that close to like the production side of things. But I feel like if just from the get go, the base day was like an hour shorter or like even 2 hours shorter, um, I'd still be able to get the same amount of work done. But there would just be, like, I guess the analogy I would say, this will kind of like, if I say this, I think it'll make sense of what I'm saying.
Hmm.
Remember back in grade school, like your English teacher or something would give you an essay to write, and they say, okay, you have a month to write the essay, and
Hmm.
then you wait 3.5 weeks before you even start to write the essay, and then it's this mad dash at the end. Whereas if they gave you the same essay and was like, okay, you have this weekend to write it,
You'll
then
get
you
it
just kind
done.
of knock it out, and
Hmm.
it was easy, it was simple. I've
Yep.
always felt like there was room for that in
Hmm.
our industry. But it's just another case of, like we were talking about, um, we've done things the same way for so long, that we just kind of don't even think about it. But you being in that position, as a lead, what do you think about kind of, and about that, right? From the standpoint of, um, what we've been talking about with like
Hmm.
artists and just burnout, and like over the course of such a long period of time that adds up, and I feel like it's got to be a better way.
100%. So, well, I feel like what you were talking about is like, can't we do this in less time? That is the argument behind the Monday through Thursday work week. The studies that people have been doing about like what this does to people's mental health and are we more productive and all these things have been like alarmingly positive that we can do the work in less time. When it comes to these hours that we're specifically working in animation, like, boy, that's the reason we started Super Dope. We were so frustrated that, like, there was never enough time. It always felt like, yeah, to us, we were just like, how is this happening over and over again? Like, why is no one being like, huh, we don't have enough time. Maybe we need to schedule more time. Like, this easy thing there. The problem that's also happening is that, like, so many companies when they're working on projects, it's like this expectation that people are going to work beyond 7. It's not actually ends at 7, it ends at 8ish. Okay, my opinion is that if you need all of your artists to work to 8 and not 7 in order to get this job done, there's a problem. There is like, you're relying on free work from people to do it. And so what we tried so hard at Superdope was making sure that like we always gave extra room than we thought, because things always go wrong. Clients and agencies, especially because they're paying for something that is like so expensive. Animation is so expensive. They feel that they should get their money's worth and they should be able to ask for changes. But a lot of the times, the people that are asking for changes and the people that are implementing those changes, sometimes directors, producers, they don't understand the work that goes into it. So they'll say, okay, and then just tell an artist to do it. And it's up to the artist to be like, okay, now I have to change this asset across like 50 different shots. And like, that's going to take time. It isn't just beep, bop, boop. So I feel like some of that also like falls on the. It shouldn't. It really shouldn't come down to the individual artist. But that does need to be expressed. Of like, I see that you are requesting that. This is going to take this much time. It shouldn't be like, I see that you're requesting that. I'm just gonna fucking take it. Like, no. But that is what is so frustrating. Is that like it's expected that we're going to work more, that like we should put in extra hours. I feel like so many places, like I remember being told if I went work at 7, like a lead would say to me like, oh, taking an early day, aren't you?
Oh
Like,
my god,
that
I
shit
hate
is
that.
so toxic. It's not okay.
Mhm.
It's like so not okay. And we have
I used to
normalized it
hate that.
where like you should be working late. That is bullshit. To me, that's like, that's poor management. That's poor management. That's And that's like another thing of when I say like it is not your responsibility, like the success of this project. You not spending extra hours of your time to like do this stuff that's been put on your plate is not why a project is going to fail or a company is going to fail. It's because they didn't fucking like get the resources for this, or they keep doing this thing where it's like, well, I've already pushed a team to do this much. Now this is what's possible. I'm going to just keep pushing people to do this. I i think like ethically that's fucked up, and that's where I had a huge problem. That's why I'm like, there's part of me that's like, and I'm scared to have these conversations because the honesty of it is like, I am so angry at this industry. I'm so pissed off at it. It is so messed up. And I don't want to be part of that stuff. So luckily for me, I'm in a position now where like I do not work overtime. And there are some companies that say, well, we don't pay overtime. So we can't pay you. And so I just go, so I won't work overtime. Um, so the way it has worked out is like I express that when I'm being hired. I'm like, just so you know, I do not work, or my overtime is 1.5 my rate, and they're like, ooh, I don't do that, and I go, okay, so I don't do that either. And if it goes past a certain hour, I'll let the producer know, like, hey, if you want me to do this, it's going to take me these more hours, and that's going to eat into overtime. And usually they'll be like, don't do that. You can
Yeah,
just end your day. And you're just like, okay, bye. Like,
yeah,
that's not your responsibility. You're being paid
yeah,
for the service, and anything beyond that is poop. But yeah, when you say, like, couldn't this be done a better way? There are companies that are trying. I know, I believe Resonate has a Monday through Thursday work week. I believe Hopper does Monday through Thursday. And I feel like these are companies that, like, really care about the artists, and they put them first. And some places, everyone does it differently, And I think, to me, that's like, that just tells you like where their priorities are. And I would say, like, stay away from the places that are notoriously taking advantage of people if you don't feel like you can stand up for yourself in that way. And like, you'll remember the places that treat you good.
yeah. I yeah. That's I the reason I asked was because that's something that I mean, I know a lot of people struggled with, but I feel like especially as a lighter at the end of the pipeline,
Oh, you're
um
so fucked.
and then and then also but then also combining that with the last few years of remote work, it stood out even more because it's like um when you're not at the office, it's very apparent that, or it's very it stands out more, um this idea of like, what am I getting paid for? Am I getting paid to do this, or am I getting paid to sit at my desk for 8 hours? Because it's like, where I've had that issue for a while, where I'll have this conversation with myself. It's like, am I done for the day? Like, I finished everything, but it's only 5. Like, do I ask for more work, or like, do I work on this longer kind of thing? It's like that weird,
Mm,
that, you know what I mean? It's that
yeah.
weird kind of thing of like, okay, do I have to work this 8 hours because that's my day rate, or am
Yeah.
I good because I finished what they asked me to do in 4 hours? Literally, sometimes I'll be done with it, and sometimes it'll be one of those days where I'll be like, I finished this in 4 hours. I'll let them know in two, two more. You know
Mm,
what I mean? And kind of go. But then it's like, again, this happens enough times, especially with the things being remote now, to where you're just like, what should I kind of do about this? Because um there's this day rate, where I'm here for 8 hours. We're supposed to be, but I also kind of finished. Like, do I do I call it in, or do I, and
mm,
then on top of that, there's the pipeline aspect of it too, where it's again, I'm a lighting artist. I'm at the end of the pipeline. Sometimes it'll be one of those things where you're not working for like 3 hours, a 3 hour chunk in the middle of the day because I'm waiting for assets. And then you won't get the assets till like 6:30.
Yeah,
And
and then
now
you're
I gotta,
busy
now I
too.
gotta, yeah. And it's like, oh, well, in hindsight, it's like, okay, well, if I had known that, I would have just, I would have just gotten up for the last three
Mhm.
hours and gone and done something else and be like, okay, I'll come back later kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like
So
this.
I feel like this might be an opinion thing. So I know of some artists that actually really loved like staff work or even freelance behind a computer because it wasn't even the remote days. It was like actually staff days. That like they knew that usually the workload that came onto their plate was like maybe 5 hours, and so they were like, I'm gonna do the work and then I'm gonna do my own thing, and that was their decision. My opinion is that like if you are charging a ton of money, like if you're a senior rate, I feel like you work those hours that you say you're going to work because you're expensive. So you do what you say you're going to do. I feel like honestly, if you're making like less money and you know that you're like worth more than that, and there are these downtimes, there are some people who are going to take it more relaxed. I think when you go from junior to senior, there are higher expectations, and so you like put your money where your mouth where you do what you are going to say. Like there was a moment where I was working extra hours to make up for hours that I didn't do. And one of my friends was like, what if you just didn't though? Like
Mhm,
why work those hours? Cause like they don't know. And my
mhm,
opinion is that, like I said, because I can say I work overtime, I'm going to promise you that in those 8 hours, I'm going to do as much work as I can do. And that also comes from like, I don't listen to anything. I'm like super hyper focused. Like, I promise you, you are getting my rate uh, amount. Like,
Avery's worth.
it's
Yeah, I'm the
equal.
same way.
So, and from a lead's perspective, I would say like if you run out of stuff to tell someone so you can like
Mhm.
keep moving along. But if you get stuff at 6:30 and you're expected to turn something around in like 2-3 hours, I feel like you should also express, ooh, you should also express like, hey, this is going to take me this many hours. The same way we want to be treated fairly by these companies, like I think we need to do that as well and like be honorable with our words. But I
Yep.
also do want to say that like coming from the studio owner perspective, like it isn't as simple as like this is a job, this is what it takes, this is what you pay people. Like so many things come into play. A lot of the times like you're trying to because we're a customer service industry, and so we want to maintain good relationships and we want to make sure that the client is happy no matter what. And so when you are a business trying to navigate the actual work that's coming in, it starts to become this like world of compromise of like, what are we willing to give for free um, in exchange for a good relationship. And that's the same way that an artist might be like, I'm going to take a lower rate because I like the relationship I have with this studio. The thing that sucks is that like when you're making a decision as a business, it's affecting more than just you. It's affecting all the people that you employ, um, which I have
Yeah.
strong feelings about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I am actually signed up for this newsletter. I forget what it's called. I should send it to you, but it's specifically for like jobs that work Monday through Thursday. And like I'm very much looking for opportunities where I'm just working Monday through Thursday because I'm hyper focused and very deliberate about the work I want to do. I feel like I can confidently say like my Monday through Thursday like I will run train. And the reason I will
The
run train is
same
because
value as Monday
I
through
just know.
Friday. Like,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm gonna."
And I know I'm like faster than most people, so
Yeah.
like it's
I'm
worth what I'm charging. Um,
Mhm.
Which, and in that rate video, I feel like honestly, what it comes down to is like, can you back up what you are
Yeah.
demanding? If you are like demanding $600 a day, but you're like really slow, you need oversight, you're not really confident in the work that you're doing, then like maybe don't charge that much. Like you're saying like, I promise this from me, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think that was thank you for that answer because
Yeah.
that was
Oh,
why I
that's all.
asked because I kinda knew, like, but because I had worked as a lead before, and so I did see a bit behind that curtain, right, to where you see the
Mhm.
production side of things. You see kind of the, uh the struggles that they deal with that make things not so simple, right? Because, like I said, it seems simple, but, um, it's not, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things where when you can understand both sides, it makes it a little bit more palatable to again when you have those caveats of like, oh, you should, make sure that you're getting your worth. But also maybe sometimes if you like the studio, you can also charge a little bit like all these little kind of
That's the
caveats
balance.
that make yeah, it helps to understand what the studios are also dealing with when you feel like, "Oh, this is unfair. I'm sitting around twiddling my thumbs all
Yeah.
day and
These idiots. If I
Yeah,
blended, it
exactly.
would be so much better. But
Exactly.
yeah, and even like I would say from the lead's perspective, like I can I can advise like, hey, we need more resources, we need more time. But sometimes they just go, we don't have that, and you're like,
Mhm.
okay,
Mhm.
like my job is just get the job done, and you have to like do the best with what you have. And that's the frustrating part I think of being like high up, that you can see the problems but you can't necessarily do anything about it.
Yeah.
Hence super dope.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Lizzie. Thank you for that answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm very much looking forward to this video, even though I'm not in the VFX world, because this was something that I've thought about a lot. This kind of reverse engineering what my rate is, because even
Mm.
as a graphic designer, kind of trying to figure out what I was going to charge early on was kind of this. It was just this cloud. I felt like
Yeah.
I had no reason to be charging someone more, um, and I didn't know why I should do it at all. But kind of reverse engineering in a way where it's like, oh, if I'm going to charge someone $5,000 for something, there's a reason that I do it, and I
Yeah.
stand behind it.
Yeah.
And so,
And
yeah,
if you feel like you're gonna be a little more like, you want the room to like not feel like you have to do this perfectly or else like you're totally fucked, then
Yeah.
charge a little less.
Yeah.
I would be interested like once I make this video, because like this is just coming from me. There's things I'm gonna miss, and there's things that like people could totally disagree with me on. It would be interesting to have a conversation after that. But last video I made took me 2 months, but that's because it was like an interior design video. It like took a lot of footage and stuff.
Watch that. That was a great video.
yeah,
Oh, thanks, thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, Jeff, you can charge whatever, man. I know.
whatever.
I know you.
Yeah.
I no, I 100% agree with you, Lizzie, because it was through working with other people and kind of looking around, not in like a
Not
disrespectful
in
way,
a
not at all, but
comparative way, yeah,
yeah,
of like
but
work.
looking around and I'm just like I noticed this about myself like kind of midway through my career where I was like, I am pretty good. I'm getting
But
stuff
wait a
done like
minute.
quickly, and like efficiently and on time and so there was kind of like that where like if you notice that in yourself, you'll know. And it's like, you know what, I can charge this because I do feel confident. Yeah, this is what they're asking me
You
for. I
back
know
it
I
up.
can I can deliver it. And it
Mhm.
feels good when you're working at a rate that you're happy with and then you deliver it. It's a good feeling.
Feels
So
it feels real good. It feels real
mhm.
good. Yeah. but it takes a while. It takes a while to get there.
Hmm.
Hmm?
I love this. But yeah, I think that's a
It's 2
that's
hours.
one way to uh, close off the pod. I feel like we're looking forward to watching the video, and I'm glad that you came back on, Lizzie, for sure. Just because
Yes, thank you, Lizzie.
you are our first
Come on
guest,
anytime.
and you're back, and you brought the energy. You know,
Waffles!
Pancakes.
pancakes. This has
I like
been
waffles.
a fantastic conversation. So thank you so much.
Hell yeah! Thank you too. I have a blast. It's really like it feels really good. Like for me, it's like accountability, and I just appreciate that
Mm.
y'all like are constantly thinking about these things. Yeah,
We
it's awesome.
I think Jamil, you said, were we going to talk about the accountability challenge, or should we talk
Oh
about
yeah,
that
do we wanna do a
Homework?
little yeah, do we
little
want some
homework?
homework? I don't know. I
Yes,
can't think of
actually.
anything. You got homework?
Hmm.
Oh well, I had the one, but I thought you wanted
Oh,
to like spur it to be an accountability thing.
yeah,
Um,
that's what we were thinking. I
Let's
think.
do that
yeah,
one.
Yeah. So,
I'm
what do
with
we
it.
want to keep ourselves
Okay.
accountable with?
Okay.
Hmm.
I have mine.
Okay.
Go
By
ahead.
the end of next week, I want my script for the rates video complete, ready to shoot.
Hmm.
Imma hit you up and Imma ask you if you did that.
Yeah. Where is it?
And
Yeah.
then I don't know. I won't put a specific date on it because, we're flexible, but soon you'll come back on and we can debrief that episode maybe or some other content that you made. Or vice
What's
versa where we can
what's your accountability?
I would like to well, we've been recording these episodes since November, right, Jeff? Was our first
Yeah.
episode early November?
Wow.
And so we it's a lot of work cutting, it's just
Yeah.
between Jeff and I doing a whole bunch of stuff and then on top of that editing videos and stuff. But
Yeah.
we want to kind of emerge on social media and our goal is to have a video a day for the next what did we say, like 2 weeks, Jeff? 3 months? It's three.
We want to
That's our
start off
goal.
with. I think
Well,
we can do 2 months at least
We
because.
want to do that's what we want to do. We want to do a video every day on social media sharing these conversations with people to brighten somebody's day, encourage somebody, who knows. But we want to put something out every day for the next 3 months.
high bar.
Yes, we have
We're
it
gonna do
already.
it. We're gonna
We already
do it.
have it
Do
posted.
it. Okay. I'm gonna look.
We're
I'm
gonna
gonna.
do it. We're gonna
Okay.
do it.
That's all.
Okay. I'm following. We'll see.
Wait, wait. You
No,
said we
I
don't have
believe
a
it.
deadline, Jamil, or because we have
No,
to
3 months.
check in.
3 months. 3 months.
You have a
We're
deadline.
gonna check in
Oh, you
three
have a
months.
deadline.
Yeah, we'll have something to check in about. Like I
Okay,
said,
yeah, yeah.
Lizzie can come on anytime. She can come on the podcast anytime.
Hit us up,
Oh, thanks.
Hit us up.
and
Okay.
yeah. So
When is it
let's
starting? Like now?
Monday.
Tomorrow.
Monday.
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 Okay.
This is Saturday
Okay.
for our listeners. Today's Saturday.
Yeah, a few days to get it. But
Lizzie,
yeah,
You're gonna do it.
appreciate you.
that's the pod.
Woo!